Probably one of the most used files we have on the NATA website is our county level cancer risk file. I'm going to open that up here, and you'll notice, open up in my browser. You'll come to a file that has all our disclaimers at the top of the page. Go through those, and then the data itself is contained down below. We start with the U.S. national averages. You'll have the county name, the state name, the FIPS, which is a number that represents the county and the state, as well as the population. Keep in mind this is based on the 2000 census. So the population in the U.S. back then was about 285 million people. Has since grown to over 300 million people. And then we break it down into the point source cancer risks, as well as the non-point cancer risks, the on-road mobile cancer risks, the non-road mobile cancer risks. We have a column for background cancer, secondarily formed pollutants, which are pollutants that form photochemically in the atmosphere. And finally, we sum those up for total cancer. So the total cancer, the average cancer for somebody in the United States would be about 50 in a million. The way you read these are per million. So 5 e to the minus 5 would represent 5 with 5 decimal points to the left of it. If you multiply that by a million, you would get about a 50 in a million risk. We also have a breakdown by each individual pollutant that contributes to that 50 in a million risk. So if you get to the right of the total column, you'll see these individual pollutant files. And if we get over something like, let's find formaldehyde here, you'll see that the biggest portion of that national risk is from formaldehyde at about 22 in a million. So about 44% of that total risk is coming from formaldehyde. And we have the same data broken down statewide. Here's Alabama's, just alphabetically the first state, as well as all counties in that state. And if you go down through the file, you'll find similar data for each state and for each county of the U.S. We also have Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands, as well as obviously Washington, D.C. in here. So there's 53 entities represented in the analysis itself. So that is the cancer risk file. We also have, I had mentioned earlier, pollutant-specific files, and let's open up one of those and browse through a county-level pollutant file. Once you get through all the Microsoft security, you'll finally get to your tables. And you can click on the table in your Microsoft. This is a Microsoft Access file now, not a Microsoft Excel file. Same type of format that I showed you in the previous file. Information by state and by the nation. If you go further down, you'll also see information for each county. This one has all the states in the nation summarized right at the top for you. But you'll have now, instead of risk, you'll have actual concentration. And that README file that's at the top of the results website will outline what each one of these are. So if you don't remember what I'm telling you, you'll have a reference to go back to. But we have ambient concentration broken down by 6 different sectors: point, non-point, on-road, non-road, background, as well as secondary. And then finally a total ambient concentration. So the total ambient concentration in the United States for acrolein is about 0.047, and these are in micrograms per cubic meter. As I said, those are outlined in that README file at the top of the NATA results page. We then have the information broken down by exposure level. These are ambient concentrations. Most people don't live, and these ambient concentrations are at census tract centroids. Most people, however, don't live at a census tract centroid. They live in their homes, and they drive to work, and they have various activities during the day. We've calculated that into what we call an exposure concentration, or a breathing level concentration. Same information broken down by the 6 different bins, and you'll notice that that is slightly lower than the concentration that we had for an ambient level. It's 0.034 nationwide. And then we break it down into if this was a carcinogen, and acrolein is not a carcinogen, so you won't see any cancer risk here. But if it was a carcinogen, you would see it there. Acrolein is a respiratory irritant, so we give you the respiratory value right there, simply by multiplying the exposure concentration you get here for the total by the respiratory reference factor, and you'll get the respiratory value right here, 1.72, as our hazard index for acrolein. So those are 2 types of files you can get off the NATA website. A third one is a state type file. You could download, let's pick a smaller state that might open up quickly. You can open up the state file once again there in Microsoft Access format. So you need to have that installed on your computer to access this type of data. In your Access file, you'll notice a table called whatever the state name is by county. And now once again, for the entire state, it has county by county and now pollutant by pollutant. So the information you saw in the pollutant specific file is nicely summarized in here for the state. So it is each pollutant and similar information for that pollutant, the ambient concentration, exposure concentration, as well as the cancer and non-cancer risk for that pollutant itself. And that's contained in this file. And finally, if we get back to the NATA website, we have similar information also on a census tract level. These files are much larger than the county level files. There are about 3,400 counties nationwide. However, there are about 66,000 census tracts nationwide. So it's about a factor of 20 times greater. And if we open up these Access files, you'll see the information that was contained in the county level files now at a tract level. And you'll see an additional column here that actually represents the census tract number. And I get a lot of questions. They say, Ted, where is the census tract physically located? Probably the easiest way to find that is to go into the Google Earth Maps, which I'll show you in a few seconds. And by clicking on that, it will give you the census tract numbers as well. If you go on the census website, there's also a map that shows you where these census tracts physically are located. We also include the population of the tract itself, as well as this is the cancer risk file. So here's the cancer risk broken down by the 6 different bins, as well as the pollutants that contribute to that total cancer nationwide. Keep in mind that these are not pollutant specific. These are a combination of all the pollutants we have that are carcinogens. I believe on the NATA website, there, on that first page, it'll kind of list all the pollutants that are carcinogens and ones that are respiratory or neurological irritants. They're all listed on that very first NATA website.